Well, greetings and salutations. Welcome to another installment of Quilts and Other Happy Accidents. I'm Sherri. We're in my quilt room. Um, so I am in the process of using as many fabrics out of my stash as possible. I'm making donation quilts for a local women's shelter, and they require the quilt to be a twin size, which apparently I didn't know what size a twin size was because it's much larger than I thought it should be. But that's good. I'm using up a ton of fabric, and I wanted to show you my latest one. So I was reviewing some of the different patterns that I have laying around, and I found this one. It is the Yellow Brick Road pattern. It's an old pattern, but it's such a good pattern, and it can turn the craziest fabric into the most beautiful quilt. The one behind me is exactly what I'm talking about. So when I looked on the instructions, in true Sherri style, I did not read all of the instructions. I just looked to see how many fat quarters do I need. Well, for a twin size, I need 18 fat quarters. So I started just pulling out random fat quarters of all varieties and colors. And as you can imagine, not all of them worked for this, but this is what I came up with behind me. And it actually is a very cool quilt. I had no idea I had this many oranges and purples in my stash. But that's okay. So to make a twin size, it's 6 blocks across and 9 blocks long. And the blocks are finish at 9 inches. Well, if you do the math, that's not a twin size, because a twin size should be 65 inches wide and 88 inches long, and we're not there. But I was out of fat quarters. Again, true Sherri style. So we got the pattern out and finally read the rest of the directions, and apparently for the borders and binding, I need 2 3/8 yards. Back to the tubs we go. And I pulled out all sorts of things. Some of them worked, some of them didn't work. But here's what I found. I found this lovely blue batik. I have a tub of batiks, and I love batiks, and they're so beautiful. I have a hard time cutting them up. Am I alone in that, or do you guys have some fabric that you bought because you loved, and then you decided you couldn't cut it up? Well, anyway. But if we look back at this, you can see I do have some batiks in here, and I do have some lighter blues in here. There's another batik. Here's another batik. So when you think about it, okay, we'll put a batik border on it. The one time I don't buy 3 yards of fabric, I need 2 3/8 yards. How much do I have, you ask? 1 yard and 2/3. Back to the tubs we go, because I don't have enough to make borders. So I went through several different fabrics, and I finally found this one. I was also in a black phase for a while. I do like using black in quilts. I think it's an underused neutral. And once I got to thinking about this fabric, did you notice the little splatters and the shades of blue in it? Hey, guess what? It works really well with that batik, doesn't it? And if we go back to this fabric, I do have splatter fabric. I mean, this white one in particular has a lot of splatter on it. This purple one has a lot of splatter in it. So, and there's a lot of really dark colors in this. So taking this fabric as a border, it's actually a pretty good border. Of course I cut it the wrong width. Moving on. but it didn't have 2 3/8. It had 1 1/3. But if you think about it, you put the two fabrics together, and I've got enough for borders and binding. Then what to do with it? Well, since I had more of the blue batik, I decided to do the sides, the long side, with the blue batik, and I'm going to put the black splatter on the short ends, and then I'll just make a continuous alternating blue and black splatter binding to pull it all together. I think it's going to work. So let's cut some fabric and add some more binding. Let's cut some fabric and add another border. I love my design wall. It is nothing but flannel and batting over a big 4x8 piece of plywood. I have 2 of them. Originally they were mounted, but we've moved several times, so I've quit mounting it because, well, it's just a pain to take it down. But I love my design board. It works really well. First thing I'm going to do is I've added the blue borders, and I'm going to square these ends off, and then we'll put on the splatter fabric. I don't know if you guys saw the trunk show video, but the reason I had bought the Yellow Brick Road pattern was to make my granddaughter's quilt before she was born. And I think after I did that trunk show video, I was like, where is that pattern? I really like that pattern. So I dug it out and I've used it again. If you haven't used it, it's really just fun and simple. I made all of these blocks in maybe 5 or 6 hours. You know, once you get them all cut out, it just flies together. The other thing that I discovered that I think everybody should know about is the Great British Sewing Bee. I was at a volunteer organization called the Sewing Lab, and during our lunch break, somebody mentioned it, and it's on Roku channel. So if you have access to Roku channel, it's free, and it's absolutely brilliant. And as you can tell, I'm starting to speak as if I am from England because it's absolutely brilliant. Moving on, let's sew some binding. And by binding, I mean borders. Okay, now that I've finally got the camera set up, I'm going to start putting this border on. Have you guys seen the videos about beginners and enders? Yes. Well, Kate from the Last Homely House calls hers quilt bunnies. That's not it. Kate from the Last Homely House calls them thread bunnies. Well, they're really handy, and you just put a few thread bunnies. They're really handy, and it's just a piece of scrap that you use to just get your machine going. But you know what else it does? It means you don't have to trim threads when you're all done. Isn't that brilliant? Yes, it is. All right, for those of you who are purists, hide your eyes while I cut off the selvage with scissors instead of my rotary cutter. I know some of you will probably have heart palpitations while watching that, and for that I'm sorry. Here we go. When I do my borders, I really like to put a border, especially on something that has lots of raw edges, because it makes it so much easier to quilt. By doing this, you capture those edges and the blocks don't fray or split as you're trying to bind it and quilt it. So I really like putting on just a bit of a border. So I'm almost done with this border. And it's a good thing because I've got a busy day ahead. It's Sunday and I am a football fan. So this afternoon we'll be watching the game and having tapas for instead of supper this evening. And one of the tapas I'm going to make is a fire roasted tomato and goat cheese tapa, which really is just a fancy word for appetizer. But it's the end of the season and I just harvested what's probably the last of my tomatoes. And they've been on the vine so long, the skins are a little tough. So I decided to fire roast them and make this, and if you haven't done that, you really should try it. It's delicious. I just throw it on my barbecue grill and put a little oil on the tomatoes and get it good and hot. And they kind of, the grill kind of singes the skins so that you can just slip them off. And the meat does retain that little smoky flavor. It makes it delicious. I meant the meat of the tomato. There's no meat in this. It's tomatoes and goat cheese. I'm sure you can see this seam. In true Sherri style, I was a few inches short of having enough for this border. Now, since this block finishes at 9 inches, the border finishes at 6 inches. It's kind of that 2/3 rule for borders, and I don't know who made that rule, but it does make it more pleasing to the eye. Because if your border is too wide, it can kind of overpower the block. And we're done. Again, for those of you with weak stomachs, don't watch as I hack off the end with my scissors, because after I press it, I'm going to take it to the table and square it off properly. So let's get it pressed. Well, now that I've got the quilt laying flat and the lighting kind of fixed up here, you can see that these two borders work really, really well. Because I've got some multicolored fabrics in here that pick up some of the darks, right? And it looks good. The style of the batik matches some of the other batiks, but it also offers some contrast even with this lighter blue. This black speckled fabric has the same shade of blue as this border, but it also picks up some of the darker colors and really gives sharp contrast to some of the pieces of fabric in this. I really like this quilt. It was fun to put together. It was a great exploration in colors and design. I never thought I'd see some of these colors put together like they have been, but it works, and this is growing on me. I don't know who's going to get it, but I hope they really enjoy it. Well, I've been in a piecing frenzy these past few weeks and months, really. And I've got several quilt tops that need to be quilted. It's that time of the year when I try to get my donation quilts taken in so that people have something that keeps them warm and lets them know that somebody out there cares. Anyway, my last tip today is don't fold your quilt tops when you're waiting for them to be quilted. Instead, go buy a pool noodle or two and roll them up on a pool noodle. It's amazing how well it works. It's a cheap little, $1 or $2 thing. And I don't know why I didn't think of it before. But somebody else mentioned it. They even use their pool noodles to help with the sandwiching. Haven't tried that yet, but I love the fact that I can roll these up and they stay nice and pressed and ready to use for the next time, because these things, you fold them up and you forget about them, or you put them in a stack somewhere and then you have to press them all over again. This saves some time and it keeps them really nice. So I've got to go make some tapas now. um, I hope you enjoyed this video. Give me a thumbs up if you did. Subscribe if you'd like. Probably the next time you'll see me, I'll have my quilting machine out, because I need to clean the sewing room and clean the sewing machine and get busy quilting. Have a wonderful day.